Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Three Men and a Football. Hello lads.
Hi, Thomas.
How you doing?
We're saying that as if like we haven't spoken to each other all week.
We haven't Si, for the...
Sorry, I've just torn down the fourth wall again.
Yeah.
So
my wife said I speak to you more than I speak to anybody else.
That's probably right.
Yeah, I know.
To be fair, it's probably better.
So we're back
for
another episode, and as Thomas has just pointed out to both of us, Daz, we're up to about 1,000 people who have downloaded, watched, listened to the previous podcast, which I think is great.
Yeah, we've got such big families, haven't we?
Yeah, subscribed across multiple platforms. So while I'm on that, you need to make sure anyone who's listening or watching, you need to make sure you subscribe and like. Let us know that you like what we're doing, or tell us that we don't know what we're talking about, and give us your opinion, because that's always helpful. I mean,
obviously they'll be wrong.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And we've got the platform now, so we can say what we want. The other thing is we're now available on YouTube, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We also have a website at www.threemenandafootball.co.uk and .com. So feel free to visit, subscribe, tell us what you think, and we'll see if we can get you involved in a podcast at some stage.
And I quite often just stand on my soapbox outside my house, shouting things to random people. So if you're walking past my house, feel free to comment.
Well, that is where we got the idea for the podcast, because we were walking past and you were standing outside just ranting.
So we were socially distancing at the time.
Yeah. 6 foot apart at all times. So we've started the last couple with some comments from people. I'm not going to say that those comments were made up, but we actually have some real ones now. So I'm going to read out some of the comments that we've got from people who I've listened to and watched over the last couple of weeks.
Just on that side, I've booked me ticket to Glasgow because you said that girl.
Oh, mate, did she not turn up?
I've been stood up again, haven't I? Stood up again. Always the way.
Catfished. All right, so the first one, I'll read it out. I've enjoyed the discussion in the first couple of episodes on YouTube. I wanted to get your views on barriers to realising talent in football.
Oh,
so it starts really serious, and then it gets to the next bit. Terry McDermott proved that a curly head of hair was no barrier to football achievements at the highest level, and David Fairclough proved that being ginger was no barrier. Do the panel think that having a ginger curly head of hair would impede achievements on the football field, or do you think this would be just down to talent alone? There's a little PS. Fellaini doesn't feature in my question as he is an arse. And it comes from Andy McFarlane, a man who's going to be looking for a new job very soon. Andy is actually based in France and listens from France and loves the podcast.
Ah, bonjour.
Thanks, Andy.
That's it now.
He's English. But
but I wanted to add a little bit of culture to the whole podcast there.
That was a good one. Thanks, Andy. I
thought it was your dad. Why you didn't quite make it at the top.
Yeah, no, yeah. Still thinking I'm going to be a footballer. Dad, I'm 45. Okay, so the second comment is, very disappointed that the best English managers list did not include Billy Birch. The man has launched many careers across Liverpool, and a bit of recognition would be expected. Bobby from Old Swan. So I think we know where that came from.
Yeah.
Last one. Comment number 3. An anagram of Neil Warnock is Colin Wanker, which is a more fitting name for him. If Warnock was involved in that many promotions, how many relegations was he involved in from Mick Wickham? I think that's directed at you, Thomas, for that terrible shout last week.
Thanks, Mick.
Simon, I think he got a yellow card last week, Thomas, for that comment.
Definitely.
Listen, I was just trying to spice it up. It was a curveball. I wasn't saying he's the best. I just wanted to recognise he's 8 promotions is something not to be sniffed at.
Stop defending it, mate. Stop defending.
Just admit it. Move on.
All right.
Okay. Last comment. Oh, sorry. And then I want to do a bit of a shout out for some people that have given us comments. Baby Perlo, a.k.a. Thomas's one fan, Dan.
Yeah, one fan, Dan.
All the time. Thanks, Dan. Matthew Bashu, Stephen Turner, and there's a couple of others as well. But loads of people giving us comments. We really appreciate it. Gives us something to talk about. And then the last comment for the comment section this week is for Darren. Ooh. And it's from Anonymous. Ask Darren about the time he attempted to overhead kick to show off while coaching in the US.
Well, what happened, mate? Well, I'll tell you the story side. We've got half an hour, so we don't need to talk about anything else. I was at a boys' camp in Punxsutawney, and I was doing some work, and you're not going to believe this because you two have seen me play, but I had, must have been 3 defenders behind me. I was in the 18-yard area, flicked it up.
That once a season?
You don't need to go anymore, mate. It's enough. And I had 3 defenders. Picture it. I'm stood, flicked it up twice, overhead kick, top corner, ran away like Gary Gillespie.
Yeah, it does. I can't see it.
Pointing to random people. And it got photographed by a parent who was doing some photography on the day. Just so happens. Now, I'm not one to show off, lads, as you know. So I put it all over social media. Make sure everyone knew I'd scored. And then the girls' camp I was doing next week asked me to do an overhead kick. And I was like, yeah, we'll see. Let's get to Friday. Friday came, and all parents were around. There was about 50, 60 people all around. They were like, do an overhead kick now, do an overhead kick. I said, okay. I threw the ball up, and I went, shit, that's I. Did my bicycle kick, landed, broke my collarbone, and had to spend that night in a Walmart sling with ice. Oh, wow. And I made the text to Simon Grant saying I can't come to San Francisco because I broke my collarbone. I'm going home.
That's brilliant. See, neither me or Thomas can picture any of that because we all know you don't cross the halfway line that often.
Yeah.
And just while we're on overhead kicks, Daz, I'll just share the fact that you came to the States to hang out with me and the family for a week. Came to watch me in a game. And if I remember rightly, I scored an overhead kick while you stood on the lines.
It was, if I'm honest, it was more of a side volley.
Can't get anything past you.
I must have blinked at that point, to be fair.
But Darren, to be fair, have you seen the size of them goals with the funny cross on and you kick the ball in between or something? It was one of them goals, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't a touchdown, Thomas. Version. Yeah. All right, so let's get on to this week's topic, Daz. What have we got?
This week's topic, we're looking at...
You see, it was meant to be me, wasn't it?
Well, I don't want to say nothing, but I was going to go with it, so we didn't have to edit it.
No, we would have to edit it because we just looked this stupid.
Why don't we pretend that never happened and just say, Si, what's this week's topic?
Daz, I've got a topic for you. So this week's topic is very topical because we've all been watching what's been going on with the impact of COVID-19 on society, on the world, but more importantly for this podcast, on football. And what we've found, and we've discussed it a little bit, is that there's an impact right throughout football. So right from the top, right down to amateur football, which we all play. Well, I mean, I say we play, but that's a loose description.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the pitch with other people. I wouldn't,
Yeah, we'd run around a little bit. Well, I mean, I'd run around a little bit more than you.
Yeah, I've not run around since 86, 87 season.
So what we've seen is that there've been a couple of leagues that have actually been called null and void now. So you've got the French league and the Belgium league have both been ended. And there's a load of uproar about them. And actually, apparently the French Prime Minister is lobbying for other leagues to do the same thing, probably so he doesn't get a load of crap off people. But what we're really interested in is what's going on in the UK. And I seen something on the Premier League's Restart or Project Restart. And I thought I'd read it out because I think it's interesting. So this is titled, How Will the Premier League's Plan Work? The shareholders meeting will hear more details on a proposal that was first raised by the Premier League at its last summit on the 17th of April. That would involve all 92 remaining matches being played over a 6-week period at approved stadiums. In what can only be described as a festival of football. I actually quite like that, a festival of football.
Will there be blues?
It's all the same. Some of the games will potentially be shown on terrestrial television, while a 3-week pre-season will also be proposed so all the players can get ready. So the Premier League is obviously starting to think about coming back. And I know from conversations with both of you that you've both got big opinions on this. So I thought it's worth us having a conversation and seeing what everyone thinks about what's going on. And then we can talk about the impact on the other levels as well.
Okay, so Thomas, do you want to give us your opinion on what you think is happening and where we move forward with this?
Being a manager and all that, Tom, because you'll be in those meetings, won't you?
I've been to several.
Several meetings in your house?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I had a meeting about it with Rachel earlier on. She wasn't too keen on it starting again. So I'm in the camp of hopefully the Premiership starting soon, obviously when it's socially safe to do so and when it's safe for the players to go and play and to kickstart like our normal society. So for the likes of us three, who we go out and work Monday to Friday, Simon sometimes a lot more than that, our weekend revolves around working, family life, football, and football's a massive emphasis, and it meant for mental health also. It's really important to have something to focus on and take your anxiety or your week stresses away and going to watch your football team. Or
I'm laughing because you say mental health, and I think it actually does make definitely me and you a little bit mental. I don't know about Darren, but it makes me and you definitely a little bit mental.
It certainly does. But also, you go, so a weekend for us, you know, I manage you two, you play football, South Liverpool. I get a lot of stress relief. I get a lot of anxiety relief from what's going on in your everyday life, where you can't just turn around and just call your boss, whatever you want to call them, or your customers that you're dealing with that are frustrating you through the week. Just everyday living where stuff sort of builds up on you. You can go to the football on a Saturday. You can swear your head off. You can call the biggest player in the world, you know, the hardest player in Liverpool who's playing for the opposition. You can tell him that you're going to knock him out. You can do all kinds.
Just on that, Tom, I won't be doing that.
I'm the type of player.
I've stupidly done it a couple of times. Luckily, Simon was there to run over and save me. But this type of thing really does affect people, and it affects the mindset, and they need the release. And for me, definitely, and I know it helps Simon a lot, the football is a massive release, and it takes away the stresses of everyday life. You go there, you'd have, you know, I have my football stresses, picking a team or seeing whether we've got a team turn up, or, you know, injuries, whether we're going to have enough, whether we're going to get through the team because you're old. That type of stresses, but it's just fabulous. It's just a great feeling to have you at the football. You speak to, you know, the lads. It's just the buzz you get at being at football and being involved in football, and then that finishing, going home and watching Liverpool play, Villa for you, Darren, or any football. Like Joe, my father-in-law, watches every single live game that's on telly, and we've got all the channels. He watches every single game, and sometimes if there's a game that is crossing over by any chance, he will record the separate games and then watch Match of the Day after watching every game. It's such an important decision to get football back, to help people's mental state and improve everyone's thoughts, or most fellas' thoughts across the country. Give them something to focus on other than this horrible disease that's going around the world. And I think if it's safe to do so, get it back on. If it's safe for the footballers, get it back on. If it's safe for the clubs, get us playing, get us watching it. Get it on free-to-air TV. Get it for everybody to watch, to focus on a Saturday, on a Wednesday night. Honestly, just get it back. I'm desperate for it to come back.
Yeah, spot a Liverpool fan.
Yeah, I just, on that, Thomas, and I get your point. I think certainly for me, you guys, our families, we grew up with football. I think for me, I don't understand a couple of things. One, why are we rushing to get the Premier League back? And I think we're rushing because it's money.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with that.
I think what happens is, I think, having read a couple of things today, because, you know, without being horrible, we do research this. It's not just put together. I think they want to get it done in such a short space of time so that they don't have to pay back the money to the TV companies. I think rushing it gives an impression that football is probably more important than what's happening in society, and it's not. I think when you think that today they're talking about playing it behind closed doors at neutral venues, and again, I think the logistics into making sure that everybody involved is safe is huge and massive, and I don't know why we don't just wait if people want the league to continue. And the reason we don't is because I think it's money orientated, and it impacts what happens then to TV deals and rights and all sorts over the next year or two.
Not a doubt, no doubt at all, Daz, that plays a big part. And I guess I'm somewhere in the middle. You know, I think I'm a Liverpool fan. I want Liverpool to win the league. We're on track to win the league unless something goes drastically wrong, like a global pandemic.
All the other 19 clubs, you know.
I think it's Ferguson trying to stop us from winning it. But so I definitely wanted or in my mind, I wanted to restart. In my heart, I wanted to restart. In my mind, I feel a little bit differently about it, because I think there's got to be so much done to ensure the health and well-being of everyone that surrounds that game. And I know we're talking about behind closed doors, no fans, but there are hundreds of people who take part in these events, whether you've got fans there or not. You've got stadiums, whether they're big stadiums, smaller stadiums. It doesn't really matter whether you've got TV. You've got people who are there. And it's difficult enough for us to look after things like the first responders and the healthcare workers and the key workers. And then all of a sudden, we're going to take some of those facilities away and give it to the Premier League to make the Premier League work. Now, so that's one side of it for me. But then the other side of it is what I do know is that the testing is not that expensive at all. Yeah. The facilities to actually administer the test are not that complicated. And in a lot of cases, you don't need a healthcare professional. You're talking about, I think they were saying about 1,000 tests a week for the players and the staff. It's not a lot of money. It's not a lot of effort. They could make that happen. There's so much money in the game that they could quite easily make that happen. So they could make it safe for the players who are surrounding them. I just don't know whether to trust the Premier League enough to make that type of decision. Because to your point, Daz, I think that decision is entirely impacted by the financials. It's not because, you know, it's the right thing to do. It's because if you don't do it, to your point, you're going to have to pay back to the television companies, which we know is now being talked about in other countries where they're talking about ending the leagues. Yeah. And then you're also going to start thinking about, well, what does next year look like? And also, what we forget a lot of the time is how people feel about being in public. So not only is this about we're going to get a load of people into one place, but it's everything that happens around football. It's going to the pub. It's being around the ground. It's being around before the game and after the game, all of that stuff. And, you know, I heard something the other day by one of our local stupid politicians talking about, you know, it should be cancelled because all the Liverpool fans are going to go and stand outside of Anfield and be together and they can't social distance. That was just political point scoring. That's all it was. It was nothing more than that. Yeah. And anyone, no matter who you support, what colour you support in Liverpool, knows that guy is just ridiculous and that is just a point scoring exercise. I wish we'd just step away from that kind of stuff and make decisions because it's the right thing to do.
It is those side, but you look around even in the city we live in, social distancing isn't working for some people. You know, you go to parks and there's gangs and groups there all the time. And although I do think it was a point scoring comment, I do think if you get these neutral grounds, you're going to get some supporters turning up.
Definitely.
You're going to get that. You're going to get people going, oh, I know Liverpool are playing there against Everton in that stadium. We're going to go down.
Yeah.
And that impacts on many things. One, travel, transport, police.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that at every ground now, they have to have an ambulance.
Yeah.
Is that going to be the case there? And if it is, that's taken away from front line.
Yeah. And then that extends to things like the physios and the doctors and the testing. It all just folds into one thing, which is, again, why this is not just a decision about should we play games, because if that was up to us, we'd want to be watching games and be around football. But I just don't think it's that simple. I think it's much more complicated.
Well, looking today, I seen on Sky Sports News, I think it was Steve Parish, Crystal Palace chairman.
Yeah.
Now, he's come out with a few quotes to say that from the meeting on Friday, they are going to make the Premiership football and the people involved in putting it on, they're going to make it safer than going to the supermarket. In fact, the plan that they've got to go forward, which they haven't announced, so I can't quote him on what they plan on putting in place. But if he's saying he's going to make it safer than going to the supermarket for players and anyone that's involved in the production of the football that we get to watch, safer than the supermarket, they actually think that they're going to set a precedent for the rest of the country to follow suit, to open up business quicker than delaying and leaving everything shut and saying what you're saying, Darren, was, why are we doing it now? So obviously, I know we all know why they're doing it now, because there's £1 billion on the line and there's teams that are going to go bankrupt right the way through the football pyramid. They're all reliant on, gate receipts, people saying up, people buying stuff, and more importantly, the television money. But if you look across to France, like Simon said, they finished the league. They've awarded Paris Saint-Germain the league title. They're already being sued. It only happened 2 days or 3 days ago by, I think it's beIN Sports.
Yeah.
I don't know, now they're suing them they want money back for the television rights for the quarter of the season that they haven't been able to show. Now, if they've done that in the Premiership, you're looking at very few clubs that are going to be able to survive. The amount of money that they've built up over the years, because the Premiership they get paid so much money to keep it running, it's going to collapse. The league's going to collapse. And that's why I think they're rushing and under so much pressure by these club chairmen, owners, Sky Sports themselves, pushing to try and get football back. I actually seen another thing today. Now, I don't know whether it was supposed to, I think it was a mistake it got put out, but Standard Chartered had actually put a countdown to Liverpool's next game live on their website.
Was that the Jordan Henderson thing?
No,
it was the...
No, that was it. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, Darren.
Yeah.
So they're saying on the 12th of June, the season's going to start with a 9 p.m. kickoff against Everton.
9 p.m?
A 9 p.m. kickoff on the 12th of June.
It'll be cold.
Now, I get your points are right. And like we said at the very start of it, I don't think football can start unless they can come out and say, it's going to be safe to do so. I think the biggest problem is going to be the likes of certain players that have got family, have got vulnerable people that live with them or close by, and they turn around and say, I don't want to play. I don't think it's safe yet to go out. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I'm hoping that footballers are going to be kept safe. But to be honest, I go to my local Tesco. I go, and it's like a bit of a day out.
On that, Thomas, we can use other supermarkets as well.
And
you have a choice.
I often look at the staff in there, and the social distancing for staff within Tesco's isn't great. And I don't know whether they mean to do it, whether they're being forced to do it, but it's just really difficult. And obviously, footballers are going to touch each other playing football and testing. I don't know how it's going to go. My fingers are crossed, my toes are crossed. I'm desperate for it to come back, just to give us something to look at. And just my last point before you jump in is the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the cage fighting that me and Simon love so much. They're starting again this weekend with a huge show. And they're behind closed doors. We've already watched one. We watched a show previously, behind closed doors show on Cage Warriors. Now they have apparently got all the testing done. They've got the building locked down. It's completely safe. I don't know how safe it is. We're not going to know. No one's going to know until it's actually put in place. But they're putting on a huge show coming this weekend. And I just think if they can go about and do it, and these people are going to be fighting each other and, trying to knock each other out, then 22 players playing football, I don't personally think, it would be that big a deal. But, I might just be being selfish and just want me football back that much.
I also think it often depends on who you support, and where your point of view comes across from. So I've got no doubt Liverpool fans will want it to continue because they want to win the league.
Of course.
And that's fine. I've got no problems. But I also don't have a problem with Liverpool winning the league if it got null void or whatever, because they're by far the best team in the league. But when you look at how the impact it has on the relegation battle, the impact it also has on, it's not just the Premier League we've got to talk about, it's the whole of the English Football League as well. And the impact that has on clubs. And part of me thinks the longer this goes on, the more some of the clubs in Division 1, Championship, Division 2 are going to struggle. So I was listening to a couple of people over the week, and Gary Neville's one of them. I think Gary Neville actually is handling this quite well. And then it got me thinking similar lines. Can we not, as a football league, set up a company where we borrow money, and we borrow an amount of money, and then pay it back over the next 4 or 5 years from the TV money that we're going to get, and that money somehow is put together so that clubs in Championship, Division 1, Division 2 are supported using this money. Because actually, the longer we go without these clubs getting revenue, these clubs have a massive impact in the community. Some of these smaller clubs have a massive impact in the community, employ a lot of people. And for the week-to-week games, or every 2 weeks they have home games, they generate money that keeps them afloat. Some of these clubs were 2 or 3 months away from going out of business anyway, all year round. And so they rely on this turnover. And I don't know whether there could be something put in place where there's a company set up that borrow money, and then the TV rights over the years get skimmed off the top to put into this pot to pay it back to the banks. And I think we need to think about the bigger picture. It's not just the Premier League, because if you've got relegation, you're going to have promotion. And I read somewhere today that Fleetwood, I think, are in 5th place and playing really well to get promoted from whatever league they're in. Whatever happens, you're going to upset someone and some club. And that's the nature of the beast. There's not going to be a right or wrong in this. You're going to upset someone. But what you have to do is limit the crash. You have to limit it somewhere, and the clubs that get involved. So, for example, I would personally, and this is not just because Villa are fighting relegation, I would almost have it where all the leagues, no one gets relegated. But you promote 2 teams or 3 teams from each league. And in the Premier League for the next 2 years, you have 22 teams. And then the next 2 years have 4 relegated.
That's one of the ideas that's out there at the moment.
I'm so glad the email got through.
Well, listen, let me come back to your last idea, because the practical. So I actually don't think it's a terrible idea at all. I think it's actually a pretty good one, but I think the practicality of it is difficult, because my initial response to that from a business perspective is that's what a bank's for. And there are ways for companies to get financed via private money or via banks. And actually it's probably easier now than it's been in a long time. So I think there's an element to say that structure already exists. It's about how you take advantage of that structure, but then what it does to your organization, because they're all businesses at the end of the day. And I think that's part of the problem with the thought process of some of these bigger clubs not taking their payments from the Premier League and it going into a pot. They're all businesses. And although there is a football family and there's a football community, the reality is they care about themselves. They can care about their own business. I've seen an awful lot of clubs getting absolutely hammered because they furloughed their staff. And to a certain extent, I absolutely didn't like the fact that Liverpool done the same thing. They can afford not to, especially when they've got their players on full wage and then they're furlough and they're lower paid employees. Terrible situation to be in. But at the same time, they're businesses. So although I didn't like it, I wasn't surprised, because it's a business and you're making a business decision. So although I like the thought of this, we have a pot that helps teams down the leagues, because you're absolutely right, Darren. The point where this really hurts is for the kind of lower end of the professional leagues, and where they just can't function anymore. They've got no cash coming in, they've got outgoings, and they're just going to go into bankruptcy. They've got no choice. So I think that's where it really hits. But I just can't see those top end clubs doing that, because they're selfish. They're big business. and they're just inherently selfish.
Because what will happen is that they feel like if they're losing 30 million, for example, that's a player that might help them get higher or in the Championship or some Champions League. The other issue, I think, and I almost want Thomas to talk to us about this one is how would, from a Liverpool perspective, how would Liverpool supporters, fans, think about them just being awarded the league, like they do with Paris Saint-Germain?
Well, Liverpool have already won the league. Liverpool won the league months ago.
Mathematically, no, but go on, I'll give you that.
Well, they have. I would like to see them complete the season just so that we as you know, we're all on social media, and Liverpool are hated. They're absolutely hated. All the Manchester clubs, the Southern clubs, the amount of rubbish that gets written about Liverpool and tainted league, now they're calling it. And earlier on the season, it was the VAR league. And, you know, we're just not liked. We're not liked because we're probably the biggest, you know, us and Man United, the two biggest clubs the country's ever seen. We've won the lot. We've won more than a lot of clubs combined. Nearly all the league probably combined. And I just think we've already won it. I don't see why they're getting on their high horse. If the season finishes and we win it, I'd like to win it on the field. But as far as I'm concerned, Paris Saint-Germain are only 12 points clear. I'm only saying only. They're 12 points clear with 9 games to go, or around 9 games to go. Liverpool are 25 points clear with 9 games to go. Mathematically, they only need to win 2 games, or if City drop any points, it reduces that further. Liverpool have already won it.
Yeah, I mean, it's done, but again, I've seen different responses to this, and people like to quote what their friends who are Liverpool fans would feel. Well, you know, unless you're a Liverpool fan, then I'm not taking any of that as gospel. I know that personally, I want to win it. I want to win it by winning the league. However, at the same time, if it means that we keep everyone safe, the reality is the league is a foregone conclusion. You're right, Daz. Mathematically, we're not there yet. 2 more games. The reality is that's going to happen. So it almost feels a little bit pointless playing the games to help us win the league. But I guess I'm not really that worried about that, because I think if we play the games, that's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the rest of it. Think about, as you said before, the relegation battle. And you know, there's different ideas flying around about the way it works. But the Premier League is this much of it. Actually, it's a massive part of the kind of social elements of football and what we all do all week and what we focus on. But the other thing is the impact on the clubs that are outside of the professional leagues as well. So we know the team that we play, or the club that we play for, South Liverpool, is in the West Cheshire League, which is a tier, I think is a level 6.
Yeah.
And level 7 is the Northwest Counties.
That's right.
And what was going to happen this year was they were going to restructure the national leagues, and South Liverpool were winning the league. They were ahead by 8 points against ahead of the next team, and they were going to go up into the Northwest Counties. And that's a big step. So they had to do things like set up a stand at the ground, which we all love. And they had to do all sorts of things to upgrade the facilities and upgrade the club. And now that has been called null and void. That whole season, all those games, all those goals that were scored, all those great things that happened in all those games have been called as if they've not happened.
Yeah.
And you've got a club that have invested money. Luckily enough, they've got people who are sponsoring them for that money, invested money in upgrading the facilities, and now they're not going to progress. That's basically just becoming debt, because that person who sponsored that club doesn't get what they want out of it. Yeah. So then next year, and maybe even the year after, what's to say that South Liverpool don't have a difficult year next year and don't win as many games? So I'm making it about South Liverpool, but then you've also got Lower Breck, we're in a similar position.
Yes.
Lower Breck are in the Northwest Counties, and they're in a situation where they're winning the league, they're well ahead. And again, they've been called null and void.
Yeah.
So for them as a club, it's everything they do all week. They're working hard every day to make that club function at that kind of level. They've got no money. They're scrimping and saving to make things happen. And now all of a sudden, you've just written off all that work. I think that's where I really struggle with it.
Yeah, and I think for me, it comes back to money. It comes back to almost the Premier League, the FA, whoever made that decision, going, you guys don't really count, because actually what we want to focus on is the Premier League.
Definitely.
And I think one, they called it maybe a bit too soon.
Yeah.
But because of that, Si and Thomas, you've got to look at players' contracts now as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you've got a player who's out of contract on June the 30th, and the leagues, no matter if you're Division 2, Championship, whatever, do those players go back to the feeder club, if you like, because they might be on loan? Do those players just stop playing for them?
Well, that'll be an agreement really between the two clubs, won't it?
But you're a free agent.
We seen something in a WhatsApp group the other day. I listened to a video where it was a lower league manager in the English Football League sent on a group video chat to his team, or sent a group WhatsApp out where he'd done a voice chat to them, basically saying he'd had a meeting with the chairman and he wanted to know whether or not the people that were out of contract, which is quite a number of them within that team, would be willing to carry on playing. They'd get paid, but they wouldn't have a contract to play past their contract date to get the season finished, and then become the free agents after that and try and find another club.
I think the issue, Thomas, is that they get a severance payment at the end of their contract in June.
Yes, yeah.
And what he was saying was you'd have to play through June, and then you wouldn't get your severance payments in July.
That's right.
So then you're at a negative.
Yeah, but were they getting paid for the games they'd play though? Well,
I think that would just be your severance payment becomes you getting paid, but then you don't get a severance payment. So either way, you lose.
Yeah.
I mean, but then I seen one today, and again back to lower league, South Liverpool. One of their players put out on Twitter, "I'm looking for a new club," and there was a whole chat about it. And apparently, because they're not getting Northwest Counties, because they're not going up a level, this guy wants to play up a level. They've just lost him. I think he's a goalkeeper, and he's meant to be really good. And they've just lost him because they've not taken that step up. Now, again, there's no money involved at that stage, but he's trying to get to a place where he can earn money.
Yeah.
And he can't get there because they've made the decision that they're going to make the season null and void.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And there's a big difference, isn't there, between null and void and, what is it, points per game, is it?
Yeah.
Because obviously a lot of leagues have been told, even though we're calling it null, we're writing off your season, the chairman of the league or the committees of them individual leagues are able to award points per game. So this hasn't happened for South, has it? In the top. So
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to see a way out of it that doesn't have the negative impact. Or I also think that football, no matter what the decision it makes, the Premier League is obviously the one that's in the public eye. Whatever decision they make, they're going to get absolutely hammered about it. Either way, they're going to get hammered. They can't win in this scenario.
No, because and I don't know what the legalities are if teams get relegated or they miss out. For example, Sheffield United, they miss out on a European spot. I don't know what the legalities are on that, and will they be compensated in some way financially? I don't know.
Well, also, how do you decide what the European spots are? Because I guess if you do it on average points, then I guess that figures it out for you. But then, what if you were like does the average points and you're a point away, and actually your run-in was easier than the other team who've got that extra point? There's arguments. There's legal arguments every way.
Will there be a Champions League then next year? Because will it be in the format that it's previously been in? Because they might have to change that depending on how long the league goes on.
Yeah, but I mean that's the same with everything, isn't it? What does the summer look like this year? Because no one knows. You know, school, football season, everything. How does it work? How does it function? No one knows, because what's happening is people are making decisions based on what they know, the facts at the time. And the facts are changing all the time because science is feeding into the facts that we know. And as time goes by, our decisions are changing every single day. And if you think back 2 weeks, the perspective on the Premier League would be very different than it is today. And the longer it goes that we're in lockdown in the UK, and it looks like we may come out of it sometime soon. And government announced today that next Sunday they're going to lay out a plan. So in my view, I think that means that the Premier League will restart and we will get it finished off. But what will happen is we'll get to next week and the science may tell us something different. And if the science tells us something different, they're going to change that decision.
Yeah. A lot lies on what happens in Germany. So Germany have gone back to training, haven't they? And also they've eased up a lot of their lockdown, and they've seen a spike in cases go up in Germany. I don't know how big they are. I haven't been following it.
I think it was 1,500, Thomas, overnight.
Was it? So whether or not the spike carries on to grow and it becomes an issue again, and we get a second wave in Germany, and then they decide to lock down, then that curtails everything. But just going back to a point that you made just before, Darren, about relegation, we've got I seen something that the Brighton chairman had put out with regards to the end of season running, and obviously they're in the relegation battle alongside Villa, and they were saying that a lot of the advantage that they had going towards the end of the season, they've played all the big teams away from the Amex, whatever, I don't know how you pronounce it. They played them away, a lot of the big teams away from that stadium, and in the running, they've got all the big teams at home, and apparently they're quite strong at home, and they think they've got a chance of taking points that they wouldn't normally take away from home, and they had a really big chance of survival and not getting sucked right down into the bottom three. Now, he's saying that he's probably going to challenge, or he's arguing the fact that if we go to neutral grounds, it's not fair on his team. Yeah. And there's that type of argument. And then you've also got legal challenges. If they were to end the season now, Leeds coming up, are they going to let them come up? It'd take years to deal with the legal challenges. I think they've got to get it done. My opinion, they've got it. If it's safe to do so, get it done. I mean, Italy announced today that they give a date for 2 weeks' time for all players to come back to training. Their sports minister challenged the decision, and they've been told they go back to training tomorrow. Yeah. So they've come back in 2 weeks early.
What concerns me is if we get players back training, they take 2 or 3 weeks pre-season, whatever it's called, then they start playing games, 2 or 3 games a week. My issue is going to be, what if that one player or one person within the Premier League gets the virus?
Yeah, but it's happened in Germany, hasn't it? There's been, the rumour is that there's some players that have been tested positive since they've gone back to training.
And can a player refuse?
Yeah, I think that's the point, is that what Thomas was saying earlier is, it'll get put out to the players, and it'll be up to the players to say, yes, I'm willing to play. Now, the reality is, think about the way we would feel if we were footballers. Looking at it from the outside, you think, I'll play every day. I don't care. I'd much rather play a game than train.
Yeah.
It's not that simple, and there's a lot more to it. And you made a great point earlier, Daz, about it's not about the players. The players are young. The players generally, not you, Daz. Players are young. The players are fit. The players have got the best support functions around them. They'll get tested heavily. They'll be supported. But then after the game, they go home to their family, or unless they're going to send them all to like the Midlands, and everyone lives in the Midlands for like 6 weeks.
Yeah. Well, there was talk of St. George's Park, wasn't it? That's what it was.
Yeah, that.
I think they'll do that. That's what I think they'll do. They're saying St. George's Park or up to eight classified stadiums that they feel that they're going to be safe in.
Yeah.
I just think for me, is it worth rushing this and doing it in June, and then we find out actually that wasn't great? Is it worth postponing it till September, and then starting it up again in September? There's still unanswered questions that I think people need to really come out, and I think the Premier League are at fault here. They should be communicating more than what they are doing.
Yeah, they've been poor.
It's just coming out poor. You hear snippets from someone, snippets from someone else. There needs to be a clear and defined rationale behind what they're thinking about. Because if they're not, it's going to cause more problems.
The problem with that is, as well, if you don't communicate, then people will just make stuff up. And that's what's happening. There's so many rumours around. But Daz, instead of just giving us the options as we're coming towards the end of the podcast, why don't you actually tell us what you think should happen?
Okay, so I
know you're a Villa fan and you're fighting for survival, but,
we would have won our last 10 games. And that's just my opinion. I think what should happen is Liverpool should be given the league. I've got no issues with that at all. I think there shouldn't be any relegation. I think we should have 2 promoted from each league, or 3 promoted, however you want to do it. the fine-tuning of it is difficult.
Yeah.
I think the fine-tuning of deciding who comes up through the playoffs, you could almost have a mini tournament with the 4 people that are involved now in the championship, if that's the way you want to go. Points per game, however you want to do it. But I do think you need to be really clear on judging it not by money, by judging it by a bigger picture and the financial implications it has on every club. And what you do for the Premier League, you have to do for the Championship, Division 1 and Division 2. Yeah. Otherwise, we've lost football.
Okay, Thomas?
Well, mine's obvious. Let's just get it back going. Get it back going. Give us something to look forward to on a Saturday, on a Wednesday. We can fine-tune working from home. This social distancing and walking around is killing me. Get the football back on. Give me something. I'll go and inject it. I'll go there and give them shots.
I know what shots you'll be giving.
If they need it, just get them playing. I'll make sure they're safe.
All right. So from my perspective, my heart says, let's get it done. Let's play the games. Let's just get the season done, get it won, and apply it right across the board. My head says that the reason we love football so much is because the game is somewhat pure. Even though I constantly talk about how cynical these clubs are and they're all a business, it's pure. A lot of what you're doing at the top end in the Premier League, you're doing on a Saturday afternoon on the field and at South Liverpool. You're playing the game the way it's meant to be played. There's some consistency that needs to be applied, and I just don't know whether you can apply that consistency right throughout the leagues. There are going to be too many players that won't want to play or will feel forced to play. And then you'll get into a situation where it's an unfair finish to the season. So I'm going to go with my heart and say that I wanted to finish off because I desperately want Liverpool to win after 30 years. It's too long.
I've got no chance, by the way, with 2 Liverpool fans and me.
As we win.
I was never going to win that.
You had a good argument, Darren. I do appreciate what you're saying. And, all joking aside, I only want it to come back if it's safe. And more importantly, the people that are going to provide it and put the show on for us, the everyday people that are paid £10 an hour to go and, work on security outside and doing all the other jobs inside, the ambulance workers, the physios, not the £300,000 a week footballers. Yeah. They'll be looked after like royalty. It's the normal everyday people. If they're safe, put it on.
So on that, Thomas, I think a shout out to all the frontline workers. Thank you from everyone. 3 men in the football. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. All right, Tom. So we've got a new segment this week because you complain every week about like Thierry Henry and others. Generally, Thierry Henry, who me and Darren happen to think is a decent player, and everyone else in the world thinks is a decent player. So we thought we'd start a new segment called Thomas's Wall of Hate. So Thomas, what's this all about? What's this Wall of Hate about? Basically,
I hate a lot of people. And sometimes for the stupidest reason. Like, I appreciate Thierry Henry was absolute magic, but I hated them. I also hated certain show-off boxers and fighters and other people in politics and on the TV. People in Corrie, I hate them. But with regards to...
People in Corrie?
I just hate this. Certain people, I just really hate them. And I'll change my mind the next week. It'll be someone else. So used to thought it'd be dead funny for me to have a person that I hate every week and talk about it.
You've only got 60 seconds, though. 60 seconds?
60 seconds, Thomas.
All right. So when am I going?
Go now. Go on.
Okay. So this week, I am mostly hating a Chelsea and England legend. So he was the guy that sort of took the spotlight off my all-time probably favourite player, and that's Jamie Carragher. I just loved Carragher. He took the spotlight off him. He sort of took the shine off how good a player Carragher was, because he was quite good. So the first player that is going to make it on my wall of hate is John Terry.
Oh, nice. So, everyone loves to hate Terry.
So one of the big things that does my head in about this is Sky commentators and BT have actually named the position the John Terry position. Wasn't the centre halves before John Terry? Seriously, wasn't the centre halves that throw, last ditch tackles in or put the body on the line or put their head where it hurts? It's not the John Terry position. It's called centre-half. So that's my first little rant out the way. So I'm not saying that he wasn't a very good player, because he was. And he would have been even better if he'd have signed for Liverpool. But we didn't need him because we had Carragher and we had Hippier. So he's a sudden softie. And he thought he was a bit of an hard case. He just reminds me of a schoolyard bully, so I don't like him. And the story, Darren told me the story about him. So the World Cup in Russia, and they're flying home, they've been beat, and they're on the plane, and they're stuck in a queue, and they've been on the plane for a couple of hours trying to fly out from Russia, wherever they were. So John Terry phoned Roman Abramovich to get them pushed up the queue so they could take off. Anyway, they did. They got pushed up the queue. They flew off. Listen, John Terry, one thing that we are brilliant at in England is queuing. Look at the queues in the supermarket. We are the best in the world at forming orderly queues. Stay in the plane, wait until it's your turn, stay there. Right. And last but not least, John Terry is a full kit wanker. They won the league or a cup of some type, and he turned up. He was out injured or suspended. He couldn't play. He got changed and put shin pads in his socks to go and lift the cup. What an absolute weapon. Honestly, I've slagged him off. He winds me up to death. He is a proper whopper. And that's all without mentioning what he did to Wayne Bridge. So first on my list for the Thomas Morris Wall of Hate is John Terry.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, well played. I love that. All right, guys, given that he's involved with Aston Villa, got anything to rebut there?
Before he came to Villa, I appreciated him as a defender. However, we've leaked so many goals since he's arrived at Villa. I'm not sure he's doing his job.
I hate him, Daz.
To be fair, mate, I thought he was an excellent centre-half, great leader, you know, someone who had character. However, I see some of your points. I get some of your points. Can we just put a disclaimer in that Simon actually like John Terry?
Yeah.
And we don't want any legal obligation against him.
Hang on. Like is a bit much for me. Like, I think he was a decent player, and he did a good job for Chelsea. He was good for England. But yeah, I mean, absolute idiot. I mean, the turning up in his kit and throwing his shin pads in, that's one of the best things I've ever read. I mean, absolutely brilliant. Watching that happen, you're like, is he really putting his kit on and putting shin pads in as if he's played? The man is crazy. All right, so we're going to wrap up. That was fun. Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, we got a bit serious at one point, didn't we?
Yeah.
It'll only happen one time.
Let's not do that again.
Yeah.
It got a bit too deep for me at times there.
It got so
that's
deep.
That's why I went so mad on me rant.
It got deep. I needed a snorkel.
Yeah. Well, all right. Listen, we'll see what's coming up for next week. So another really good episode. Hopefully people will enjoy it. If you do, subscribe, hit the button. We want to know that you're liking what we do. Available on YouTube, iTunes, Google
Spotify.
Podcasts, the TuneIn network. Let us know where else you want it. We'll get it wherever you want it. Wherever you want to listen to Three Men of Football, we're all over it. Let us know. Give us your comments, and we'll keep them coming.
Brilliant.
We
Thanks,
appreciate
Daz.
you listening.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks very much.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Take it easy.
See you later.
Ta-ra.